everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Vince.
And welcome to this year's Multi-Topic Extravaganza. We are very excited to bring back the Multi-Topic Extravaganza. We are going to do a series of half-hour videos for you where we're going to be answering your questions. And if you have already asked a question, it might get answered today. It might get answered in a later video, but we're going to do our best to get to as many of them as humanly possible. And we are going to try to answer at least one from every person. So we are going to go ahead and get started on this right straight away. If you have a question that you want to send us, please either send it as a personal message on Geekvolution or send it to the video that I posted about the Multi-Topic Extravaganza, but not this video. I'll be periodically checking the comments from that video, so please go there to ask us more questions. If you want to do that, Vince, are you ready? Are you excited?
I'm ready. If you have a comment to leave on this video, don't make it a question.
Yeah, that's, I mean, if you disobey the rules and you do put a question there, it could get answered, but don't expect it to get answered because I'm not going to be going back to all of these all the time. So anyway, all right. So Vince and I have not looked at these ahead of time. That still wouldn't have been ahead of time because we're starting right now. But so we're going to be answering these completely cold, so we have no idea what they are yet, and we're very excited to answer your questions. So here we go, Vince. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Multi-Topic Extravaganza.
Here we go.
Here it goes. All right. Billy Lawrence says, Captain Logan, I would love to know your opinion on the epic rap battles of history. It would be fun if you made a video where you and Vince each battle each other and debate on who won and why. That would make a lengthy and interesting video. However, maybe not this channel, as those videos have some language. Also, random question, if the Burger King and the Dairy Queen hooked up, what would their kid be like? I say the Duke of Puke. All right. Vince, have you watched any epic rap battles of history?
A few.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them.
I haven't watched them extensively, and of course he asked about your opinion, but I like them. They're not the most entertaining thing to me, and sometimes I find it questionable as to whether or not they fully represent a character or historical figure in the most, not necessarily appropriate as immoral, but appropriate as inaccurate.
Yeah.
The most accurate light. But, I mean, of course, it's all this kind of heightened reality anyway, because it's all this farcical version of them, because they're rapping. But I'm sure Albert Einstein's not known for his rapping. So you can't really judge it too harshly, but I like them. I'm not super into them or anything.
That's true. I mean, I guess you do sort of want them to get their history right on them, just because it's not as funny if they have to fudge any of that, or if they have to like, I don't know. They take people's personality when we're talking about real people, because obviously they use fictional people, but when we're talking about real people, I mean they take their personalities and they kind of do really exaggerated versions. So I don't need them to be exactly right on what the person was like, but yeah, I do think that sometimes they do a good job of getting beyond just the popular perceptions. Like sometimes they've actually clearly done some research and you'll learn something, which is kind of funny. I don't know. I like them okay. It's not my favorite thing. I think when they first started getting really huge and people would send them to me, I watched one or two and was like, eh. It just wasn't really my thing, and you know me and profanity. That has sometimes, I've loosened up on that a lot. So when those were starting, I would be like, I don't. This isn't my thing, And I'm just not real big into rap and stuff. One evening, I found myself going through a whole ton of them, and I got kind of hooked on them for like an hour. And so like they're all jumbled in my head now. But the thing I think I am most impressed about them is that they manage to not feel like the exact same beat and tune every time. Like they do write a lot of different kinds of raps, which I really appreciate, because it very easily could have been just like the same thing over and over again. And I'm always impressed when I listen to a new one and I go, oh, this is like at a much slower clip than the last one, and that kind of thing. So I don't know. They're okay. It's interesting that you suggest that we do one. I don't know if it would be a thing that I would be good at writing. I have written parody rap lyrics before and seem to be okay at that, but like writing one from scratch, I don't know what that would be like, or if I would be any good at it. I don't know if it would matter. You know what I mean? Like it was like, all right, we're gonna have a couple of really geeky, pasty white guys doing a rap. Maybe it's funny if it's not that good, but you want it to be good. So I don't know. It's funny because there is a friend of mine on another channel right now that's trying to get me involved in one of these, and I'm very apprehensive about it because I don't know if I would be any good for it, you know. And so it's funny that this came up now because I actually have been debating lately about whether or not I'm going to involve myself in one of those. So I don't know, maybe. And then somebody else suggested, Vince, that let's see, Mauser Alwyn said maybe there should be a Captain Logan Doom's Vince rap battle, and I have a hard time not thinking that sounds like a really fun idea.
You know, for anybody out there who does rap battles, make a Captain Logan Doom's Vince one. Here we go. Problem solved.
But they would want us to be in it, probably.
Well,
you know,
that's probably true. But it's never the actual person doing a rap battle, right?
Usually, it's not.
It's
no,
manifestations of them. It's a version of them.
Yeah. I love that you're just like, look, we can't get Doom's Vince. Like we can't.
He's a very he's a
busy.
hard to get guy.
He is.
He's too busy running Spawn Year.
All right, so Andrew Gillickson, if you were able to...
He's dead, isn't he? Anyway.
If you were able to... Well, anyway, if you were able to write a comic book, which would you want to do and which artist would you like to work with on it? So I guess saying pre-existing comics, this is something we've answered before, but maybe our opinions have changed. Vince, if you were to write somebody, who would you, and let's do it this way, who would you realistically think that you would be good at writing at? I mean at writing.
It's hard for me to say that I would be good at any particular character.
Yeah.
Because we're talking comics specifically here, right?
Yeah.
All right. Because I don't feel like I would be good at writing the things I like. I don't feel like I'd be good at writing the Punisher. I don't feel like I'd be good at writing the Shadow or something to that effect. I feel like I'd be good at writing the Rocketeer.
Is it because you're too close to him and you feel like there would be too much of a responsibility to get it right?
Sometimes I feel like it's that I'm not historically versed enough to really get certain things correct. Like,
and you're so into historical, like characters from particular historical periods.
Like you have the Rocketeer and the Shadow, who are from around the 40s.
40s, yeah.
And set in there. Obviously, the Rocketeer came much later, but so you have these characters set around this. Now, I feel like I could do a Rocketeer comic book because it seems like nobody's doing anything historically significant with the Rocketeer, even though it's period. Anyway, that annoys the crap out of me. Do something where he's fighting Nazis anyway. Well,
and it's hard not to think that too after the movie, which is really the only exposure I've had to that, and the movie is all alternate history.
Yeah, and I mean it's not. It's
let's tell you what really happened with the Hollywood sign. I mean, I love that stuff.
And I like it. I would do the Rocketeer. I think I could probably do the Fantastic Four. Maybe more specifically, I could probably do a Thing comic.
Like a Thing one-off.
Like, I feel like I could do a really good, or at least not a really... Let me rephrase that. I feel like I could do justice to the Thing because I've read nearly every Thing solo series at this point. So, I'm only like 2 or 3 issues away from having read it all. Anyway, yeah, that's my answer. Rocketeer, Thing.
I feel like I answer this question a lot. My answers often remain the same, so I'll go through this kind of quickly. Like I've always said, I want to reboot Power Rangers. It's a thing I really want to do, and we're finally going to get that Power Rangers reboot, so hopefully that's good. But that's a thing I've always really wanted to do.
There's some good ideas for that too.
People have been asking me to finally share my kind of pitch for that, and I'm thinking about finally doing a video. So you guys might get my Power Rangers pitch. Everybody I've talked to really likes it. Vince likes it. Eric likes it. So I don't know.
I don't even watch Power Rangers. I mean, I've seen it. I know what happens, but it's roughly the same thing every episode.
If you've seen one, you know what happens. Yeah. But
it's a good idea.
Spoiler alert: Lord Zed usually loses. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I know. But
and what about Rita?
And her too.
Yeah, Rita Rudner.
So Spawn, I really would love to write because I know it in and out now, and I just feel like that's another thing, sort of like Power Rangers. Except Power Rangers doesn't irritate me.
Would you reboot Spawn?
Oh yeah, you'd have to.
Yeah,
because it's so convoluted. I mean, that's the problem, is that people would keep coming in and trying to fix it with what was there already, and it just doesn't work. Like I don't know, man. Those are tainted crayons. You got to throw that box away. It's just no, it didn't. So. But
it's a great analogy.
That's also how I would do it too. I would do Spawn in crayon. I would like to write children's comic books. I would like.
There needs to be more of those. So.
And by the way, I've now put a period on Spawn, and I'm moving on to a new topic. I would like to do kids books. I would like to do single 22-page. Let's show you how to do a whole story in one comic book kind of stories. Well, I'd like to see more of that in adult stuff too. And that's mostly what we're getting in kids, which is why I feel like realistically I could probably get into kids writing, just because I feel like I'm pretty good at fitting a story in 22 pages, and I feel like that's kind of a lost art in a lot of ways. And yeah, I love long form storytelling too, but people have this notion that you can't tell a whole story in 22 pages, and yeah, you can. It's not easy, but you can. Mm-hmm. And whenever I read one that I love, because when I was a kid, I found a lot of those, and that's what got me into comics in the first place. It wasn't the long form thing, that got me into comics. I wanted to be able to pick one up, and I mean, I read stuff in the middle of arcs and things too, but like I just really like that. So I don't know. I'd love to write and if we're talking pre-existing stuff, I'd love to write Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of other sorts of things.
You should do a Yonoid comic.
That was out of left field.
Yep, Yonoid, there you go.
Bring back Bragg, man. That's another thing I'd love to do. All right, moving right along. Okay, Kyle Bridges is asking about favorite and least favorite superheroes. I feel like we've answered that a lot, but favorite superheroes. So we'll skip that one. But have we ever talked about least favorite superheroes? Do you have superheroes you just never ever care about? Because I gotta say that these days, I'm finding more and more that, like, I'm finding myself a lot more open-minded. There will be superheroes that I either didn't like or didn't care about, and then a lot of the time it just turns out to be less about the concept and more about just who's writing it right now.
Yeah, and for me, I don't have a superhero that I think, well, that's a bad idea. I have superheroes that I think, I don't think they're doing it well, but...
Me too.
I've read some really good Deadpool out there, but there's a lot of bad Deadpool out there right now, and not right now, but as of this moment, right now things from the past.
But right now is like one of the best times ever for Deadpool. I mean, I'm reading good Deadpool right now, so that's a character I used to would point to.
And so I don't hate Deadpool, but there are things that I don't like. There's a lot of Green Lantern that I don't much care for, but there is Green Lantern that I do care for.
Me too.
Same thing with Green Arrow. There are things. Favorite and least favorite. I mean, that's the thing, though, is that
I used to not like Guy Gardner, and now he's in Red Lanterns, and I like him. So,
but I'll say this: two of my favorite comic book characters, the Thing and the Punisher. I've read a lot of really crap stuff that came out for them. So that's the thing, is that you can have a character that you can have a story arc that'll turn you around on something. Like, for example, Longbow Hunters is a good story, and it can turn you around on the Green Arrow if you never read anything about it, or if you never read anything you liked.
There is a lot of bad Green Arrow, but there's a lot of bad everything. I mean, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and a very small percentage of it is great.
I mean, and that's kind of the problem of the monthly thing. You send comics out monthly, and people buy them or they don't, and then that's the thing, is that you have to just keep producing. It's not about having a good idea. It's about having an idea that you can get out there fast enough. And that's the problem with comics. So least favorite superheroes? I don't know. I don't have least favorite superheroes. I have least favorite story arcs.
I'll say Alpha.
Alpha?
Yeah, that Spider-Man sidekick thing from a couple years ago. No. But that's not to say that somebody... I didn't read the mini that he got. I mean, that's not to say that somebody couldn't come along and make that cool, but... So I don't know. I mean, it's always just based on whatever you have read, right? Because, like you said, I can't think of a single. I'm sure I'll think of one when we turn the camera off. I can't think of a character where I'm like, that never works. That was just a stupid concept in the first place, and you never should have done that. Like, I don't know. There are concepts that on paper sound like really bad ideas that, it's like I've always said, you can make anything work. You just have to make it work. So, I don't know. Jean-Paul Valley, Azrael, for instance, that doesn't immediately sound like a good idea, really, inside the Batman universe, and then it's really good. It's really great, just depending on who grabs it and runs with it. And I understand why some people don't like certain things on principle. I get people that say Joker should never have a sidekick chick, and so I don't like Harley Quinn because I don't like the notion that happened. But that doesn't mean that if you put that aside and you read good Harley Quinn stories that you wouldn't be like, okay, I mean, I didn't want this, but now that I have it, it's all right, so.
Yep. I have nothing else.
He also, I want to tag this on. He also wants to know what our favorite videos are that we've made. of our own stuff. What are things that we've made that we really liked? And we did a best of GNN a few years ago, but we've done a lot of things since then.
I really liked one of them that we made really early on when we were still back in Lawrence, when we made it with Brandon, and we talked about video games we wanted to exist, and we're like, let's mix Pokemon poaching and Drive Revolution into Drive-By Revolution.
That was pretty funny.
And that was really fun to me. So that's my favorite video.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even over Basketball?
It just sticks out in my head.
But even over Basketball?
Yeah. That was just such a moment that I loved so much, the Drive-By Revolution. It's like, this is a great idea.
I mean, most recently, I'm pretty happy with... And I don't know. I recently asked Jason Aaron this question. I was interviewing Jason Aaron for Midwestern Panels, and I asked him, "What's your favorite of your own work?" And he gave what some people would call a cop-out answer. And now that I think about it, I'm like, no, I feel like I should start saying that now too. which is well, I like to think that my best things haven't been made yet. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to feel like I've stagnated and that my best is behind me. But yeah, as far as just what we've got already, most recently, I'm pretty happy with my 75th anniversary Batman video. People seem to really like that. I don't know. I'm happy with how that turned out. That was fun. But as far as like favorite ever, I've got a couple rewinds that I'm really proud of, and not in a like oh my analysis was so great sort of way, but just in like I worked really hard on that, and I did a lot of research, and I spent a lot so like it's Watchmen and it's Arkham City and and RoboCop, because that was a movie that I didn't really have any stake in or interest in and had never watched, and then got so deep into looking at that movie that I wrote a 45-minute review of it, and it started in this place of I don't feel like this is something I feel like I should know better than I do because everybody grew up with this and I didn't. And then when I started really getting into it, I couldn't stop thinking about it, And so, I don't know. Maybe it's more favorite experiences for me than it is favorite videos, Because I don't know if that's one of my better rewinds, but like I look back on it now after a couple months and I go, I'm really glad I did that. You know what I mean? I guess more just for kind of my personal edification and education.
Oh yeah.
Emo Kid 64. Who are your favorite comic book artists? And why? Vince, give me like of all time and like a most recently, if you can.
Most recently, I'm not trying to say his
Given
name.
that this is off the cuff.
Ariel Olivetti.
Olivetti, sure.
Oh God, it's just so pretty. Even the books that have stories I don't much care for, they're just so pretty. It's just so pretty to me. I like that they're. It's not quite as refined and realistic as Alex Ross, but I would put them in the same vein. I mean, they have this sort of softness to them. They have this sort of fleshiness the characters do, and I think it's pretty. I don't know. It just gets me. I buy a book because I'm like, ooh, that has Olivetti's artwork, and then I go, I wouldn't bet. So yeah.
And for a lot of comic readers, that's good enough, For a lot of people, it's like, the story was just okay, but I buy comics for the art, because where else do you get that?
Mm-hmm. What you got one? You got one?
Well, so all time, and this has gotten so funny because of Spawn year. My favorite artist is my least favorite writer, and that's Todd McFarlane. I will like no matter how irritated I got reading his Spawn, I will never tire of his artwork. It changed everything, and it is still the most original stuff I think I've ever seen. And he also is my Spider-Man. And it's just so it's hard for me not to get kind of giddy when I see his Spider-Man. He changed webbing forever. Like webbing will never look the same again. And if you don't draw Spider-Man with those big eyes, you're not drawing him right. That's all I'm saying. As far as more recently, I'm gonna say Chris Samney on Daredevil, which wasn't a thing that jumped out at me at first. And as it's gone along, I can't imagine that story with any other kind of art. It's Santaluco on Ninja Turtles. This guy came out of nowhere, and he is also a pretty good plotter. He plotted most of the Foot Clan miniseries and has some really good ideas for Ninja Turtles. His stuff is like really edgy and really dramatic and really expressive. Never seen anything like that guy. And then there was another one I was going to mention too, of stuff going on right now, and it's suddenly I'm blanking on who else I was going to. I was going to mention somebody else, and I can't remember.
You think of it? I'll think of it.
Oh, David Finch. David Finch.
Oh, Finch. Yeah. Tim Bradstreet.
Yeah.
Oh, solid. I just love his covers. And
what is he working on that you're reading?
Not anything right now.
Oh, not anything right now. Okay.
But just thinking back.
Yeah.
Bradstreet's covers. I mean, occasionally he'll put something out from one of the Shadow books, and that pleases me. Tim Sale is really big up there. That might be my of all time, because Tim Sale just. I like the sketchiness of his work. Now, like, that's kind of the polar opposite of somebody like
Alex Ross.
or Alex Ross. But I like a style. I do, and I don't have a problem with that. And yeah, I mean, older books, Byrne. I like John Byrne. I feel like John Byrne's one of the most underrated. Like, he's one of the most used and most underrated comic creators, because his Fantastic Four is solid.
Yeah. Well, and it would be remiss of me to not mention Breyfogle.
Oh yeah,
Norm Breyfogle being my favorite Batman artist of all time. All right, Justice the Epic in future X-Men films. Do you think they will recast McAvoy and Fassbender with older actors, or just make them look older with things like makeup? No, they will not do that.
They'll just get older.
They'll just get no, but that's the problem, is that they're not doing it like that. Because the thing is, they continue jumping 10 in every movie, so like they're already way too young to play the characters they're going to be playing in the next movie, because they're going to go to 80s, and like, that's crazy, Vince. Like, they still look like they're 30, and we've gone from 62 to early to mid 80s. It's like we're covered like more than 20 years in that amount of time, and these guys have only been playing the parts for a few years. No, like, that's so. No, they're not gonna recast them.
Yeah.
I don't know that they'll make them look any older, though. I wonder if they'll just either kind of hope you don't notice, or say, look, it's comic book time. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you know, if you think about. Because here's what's weird about it too. You know, if you think about what like Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart look like in the first X-Men movies, and then how old they would have to be in the future of Days of Future Past. If we started this thing in the 60s, they are like over 100 years old. So maybe it's not really that much of a problem that they look younger in the 80s, because they've existed. Because I mean, like, you know, they've endured longer looking younger than they ought to have. So I don't know. I guess the answer is comic book time. I guess they're fudging it, and they're saying, look, it's comic book characters. We're going to kind of fudge it so that we can do historical pieces, but so that we can also, you know, keep the same continuity in the future. So yeah, they won't recast them. I think they'll keep those actors as long as they can keep them.
I think they might make some effort to age them, but probably not much.
Probably not much. Wouldn't it be really weird to recast older? I mean, that would just be bizarre, because you wouldn't be able to keep the older actors for very long. It seems like a terrible idea. And plus, this new direction has been working mostly because, well, I mean, the writing and you know, directing, of course, bringing back old blood and really good new blood. But let's keep in mind that a lot of what's gotten people excited about X-Men again is those two guys' performances. Yeah. So, no, they're not going to recast them.
Yeah. Because, you know, what hope do you have of lightning striking twice? So, indeed.
And plus, it's not good business. You can't hang on to them.
You know, and if Storm's around there, then there's a good chance, but it's not figurative.
Well, and plus, considering that we're going to have to recast characters we've had before younger, it would be a really weird time to recast them too. That's not going to happen, because we're going to have a new Storm and probably a new Cyclops and and stuff. So, yeah. Let's see here. Manta Blu-ray. Hello, Captain Logan. A couple years ago, Marvel Studios intended to let Fox keep the rights for Daredevil a little longer in exchange for not the Fantastic Four, but just Galactus and Silver Surfer specifically. Can you imagine the meetings? Can you imagine the meetings where we're negotiating, and how silly this would seem to non-comic people and people that don't know these characters? You're like, okay, well, I'll get it sounds like kids with trading cards or like Pogs or something. you know, or Hero Clicks. Okay, I'll give you Galactus if you give me. So anyway, I just had to mention that. I think it's funny. My question is, would you have preferred Marvel getting Galactus and Silver Surfer or Daredevil? I would also like to know why. Well, I'll tell you, that is easy. Yeah, Galactus and Daredevil all the way. Galactus and Silver Surfer all the way over.
Both.
Shut up, Vince. Over Daredevil, because I'm glad they got Daredevil, but I'm glad that they're not trying to put Daredevil like in an Avengers movie or give him a movie they're trying to do that kind of tone or whatever. I'm glad that he's getting a TV show and they're kind of getting away from that. This is the same continuity, but it's a gritty thing. He's on his own. No, Galactus and Silver Surfer would fit great in the Avengers kind of movies. And
that's true. I would rather see Daredevil.
Really?
Yeah, just because the character pleases me more, and I feel like you could get a lot out of Silver Surfer being in an origin film with Galactus, or even not an origin film, but I feel like you can get a lot out of Daredevil too, and for me it's just a taste thing.
But what we're talking about is not what you'd like to see made. We're talking about what you'd like to see Marvel Studios have.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that Fox couldn't have made another good Daredevil reboot.
I'm not unconvinced either. I'm just saying that I would like to see what Marvel Studios does with Daredevil.
Oh, okay, but I'm just saying, like in the, does he fit that well in the world they have?
I don't necessarily need him to be in the world they have. Like, Spider-Man is largely separate from the Avengers, so... Wait, no, that Spider-Man has Sony.
Yeah,
Sony has
no, nothing is separate in Marvel Studios. They throw them all together, really, so...
I don't feel like it needs to be together. I feel
that's not what we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be. Like, whoever gets what, you see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, give me Galactus and Silver Surfer, because with the characters that they have already, those would mesh really well. How well is Daredevil really going to mesh with the Avengers characters? And you know that they'll find some way to throw them in there. That's the point I'm making.
I mean, if we have to put them all together, sure, Galactus and Silver Surfer.
It's a shared universe. I mean, you're always gonna have that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not a huge fan of them ever getting Spider-Man, because I don't want him to be an Avenger. I just don't really want to see that. I mean, if they could get him, and especially if they could get the one that Sony has now, and they could just like share them, that'd be okay with me. But like, I would be fine with that as long as he doesn't have to be an Avenger. Cross some of those characters here and there, yeah, cool, whatever. And same thing with Daredevil. And again, I am glad that they got Daredevil. Because the other thing that you have to keep in mind is this isn't like a wishful thinking thing. This is, well, they have Daredevil now, and we know what they're doing with him. They're giving him a TV show, and he is getting it separated that way. And so I'm glad we're getting that. That's super awesome. But in the meantime, we're not getting my favorite villain ever in any capacity, and we've never seen Galactus actually realized on screen in live action. And, well, yeah, okay, that too. But like, we've never seen Galactus realized in a live action film, and if Marvel Studios doesn't get him, I don't know that we ever will, or that it'll ever be done well. My point, Vince, is they got Daredevil, and Daredevil looks like Daredevil. Well, if Fox had made Daredevil, he still would have looked like Daredevil.
Yeah,
if Marvel Studios got Galactus, you can be pretty darn sure that he would look like Galactus
instead of a giant cloud,
and that they would do him right. And I know I've been on about that for years, but I kind of just want to see Galactus realized. So it is a taste issue. It is a personal thing. But what I'm saying is, can we be sure that Marvel Studios would do Daredevil any better than Fox?
But I have no idea. I just want to give them an excuse to make something that's not connected to the Avengers universe.
Yeah, and they're doing that, but that's not to say that they won't ever do anything with it. So I'm just saying, like if they had given him a movie, he might. I guess maybe my argument is a little bit circular, because I said, well, if they got Daredevil, he would definitely be in a bit. Well, they got Daredevil, and he's not an Avengers, and he is getting a TV show, so you might be right about that.
So that's all I'm hoping.
So why can't they have all of them?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Why can't they have all of them, Vince?
It'll happen. Hang in there, bud. I'm just not sure that I want to see a Galactus. I
don't know that the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie isn't going to tang.
I have no idea.
I don't know that Trank isn't going to tang.
I like that.
Which I hate, because I love Chronicle, but people have been pretty down about that. So we haven't seen trailers, and it hasn't been made yet. So we'll see.
It could be good.
It could be,
But I'm not sure that I care to see Galactus introduced into the Avengers universe, just because I like the Fantastic Four and how they deal with it. Now, that's a personal preference thing. I think you could make a stellar Galactus Avengers movie. And in fact, you would almost make a more sensible Galactus Avengers movie. But
I think so, too. I don't need Galactus in Fantastic Four to be involved necessarily. I don't have to have that. Like Galactus is a separate thing for me. I mean, I know he's not, you know what I mean? But it's just, those were the characters that he was dealing with then. Like, you know,
and at this point,
he could have easily been introduced to anybody else's world, really. Although at the time we didn't have anybody else that had those kind of cosmic powers. But then that's not how they beat him. So they still needed a magic MacGuffin machine.
And a guy that comes down and says, "Hey, you got problems. Oh, okay, maybe we should go fix this. Thanks, Watcher. So glad you're not dead."
I'm sorry for arguing with you about that, because now I'm sitting here going, "No, my argument was stupid. You're totally right. No, you're totally right. Well, because they did get Daredevil, and he's going to get a TV show, and you know, it's going to be several episodes of a long form story. That's way better for Daredevil than a movie.
Yeah, I like Daredevil,
so that's exciting.
He's my friend.
You know, me too. I collect Daredevil, and you don't. So
I have all the Marvel 9s.
I have all Frank Miller.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point.
All the current and stuff, yeah. Okay, Farmer Yeti, what would you guys think of a Spider-Man 2099 animated film or cartoon series? Yes!
Sure.
That's my answer.
I have no problem with that at all.
I've always wanted to see that. I mean, that, you know.
I feel like you make a single thing for $20.99 that can exist within itself, and you can make something that's a little more sensible. Because I feel like the problem with $21.99 was they were pumping them out too fast, and you would read one book and it would be just ridiculous in comparison to some of the things that happen in the other book. You're like, well, why are these two things related? Why do they keep jumping in each other's book? Why is it that I keep seeing X-Men and Spider-Man and Punisher together and Doom together, but the worlds don't mesh? And
you want it to be its own thing in that sense, but you also would want it to be a lineage thing, so that you talked about Peter Parker and stuff. Like,
yeah.
You'd have to have that.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, at first I didn't know what point you were making, but yes, no, I agree with you. But that's because Peter David was doing that book, and it was, you know, a really... 2099 was, on the whole, was a really kind of gimmicky thing, and there weren't a lot of really great ideas there, so Spider 2099 was the good one. I mean, there were a couple, you know, kind of diamonds in the rough here and there, but, if, you know... And I haven't read everything, but if memory serves, that was the good one.
Ravage was dull.
And X-Men was dull. You know, everything I read was just really dull, and I don't remember
Doom
what Fantastic Four was like.
Partially interesting.
Doom was cool. Yeah. Doom was okay.
Fantastic Four, they only had, like, 5 books, maybe.
Oh, really? Well, yeah. Doom, but with Doom it helped because it was a character you knew already. You know, he wasn't a new kid. It was Dr. Doom.
Same
sent
thing
to the
with
future.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that whole you know subset got sent to the future.
I feel like there's lots of good ideas that, and I guess my ultimate point was there's lots of good ideas in there to plumb. The only deal is that you have to streamline it and make it a sensible story.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like you could make a better 2099 series or TV series or animated movie than you did the comic book. So $20.99 in general. Anyway, so yeah, go for it. Do your thing.
Well, and I also think that like $20.99 would have made maybe a better animated series in the '90s, just because the sensibilities of what it was.
And they had Spider-Man Unlimited
of that period. Yeah, and everybody brings that up when we talk about $20.99, but it's a very different thing. Yeah, it was Peter Parker, and it wasn't that good. But it also was that same kind of futuristic sensibility of that's the sort of future that we would imagine. It's not the kind of future that we tend to imagine now. And so we're still kind of clinging to that whole thing, and I don't have a problem with, you know, here's the future that we would like to look at because of where we were in thinking things in the 90s, but I mean, let's face it, that's not really, you know, the whole, like, you know, flying cars and all of that. That's not really the future I think that people as much really realistically think of. Not to say that it's not going to happen, but, you know, it's just, we don't, you know, in movies and things now, we're not going there anymore. You know what I mean?
When I think of the future, I think of a dust bowl and gas prices that are way too high.
So Vince is going to make that animated series.
I'm thinking that Mad Max's future is a little more likely.
What else? Divid22, let's answer a couple more questions real quick, Vince. What villains would make the best sense in the new Gotham series? Where do you see the future of science fiction going forward? Oh, wow, we just answered that question. No. So, with Gotham, well, I like the folks that they've picked so far. I mean, I don't know, I'm still...
Who have they picked so far again?
Well, I mean, they're doing a lot of the main staples. We got Poison Ivy in that. We got Riddler in that. None of them are costumed yet, but we got Penguin. Yeah, Penguin's one of the main characters in that show. So yeah, I mean, like, I'm cool with where it's going. I don't know that there's anybody that I'm just immediately going, oh man, I sure hope they do that. I mean, maybe Scarecrow. I don't know. I gotta kind of see the pilot for that show before I really start anticipating things with it.
Yeah, it kind of depends on what angle they take as to which characters I'd like to see.
Because as a prequel thing, I still can't get as excited about it as I would if it was just a straight up Batman show. But then the trailer that we got was exciting, so I thought it looked cool. It's not what I want, but that doesn't mean that it won't be great and that I won't really enjoy it. So yeah, as far as future of science fiction, oh man, hurt my brain. Why don't you? Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna go more action. I feel like
are we just talking movies? Yeah, I mean, sure, but that's already where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like we're going to get more and more into sci-fi as opposed to science fiction.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what's happening right now is that real solid science fiction writers are having difficulty in like making up interesting futuristic ideas that don't just already kind of look like what we have or where we're already heading. I think people are having a hard time being real creative and imaginative in coming up with, like, in trying to predict things, and in coming up with those really good what if statements where it's like, well, first of all, I think there's kind of this sort of, well, it's all been done kind of mentality, which I'm not saying you shouldn't be creative, because you should. We need to try to find a way to get away from that. But at the same time, it's almost as if when possibilities look endless, it's almost cramping people, because it's like, well, everything's already been thought of, it's like, well, we know in 10 years we'll probably be able to do this and this and that. And so, a lot of things, I think people are afraid of being outdated too quickly too, because of the speed that culture is moving at now.
Yeah.
I think that's a thing that people are worried about, where it's like, well, I could put a transporter in this, but then 5 years from now we might have one of those, and so, I don't know.
I feel like part of the problem is that when you have decent science fiction now, I really have no knowledge of science fiction novels, not to say that I don't know they exist, but more to say that I'm more versed in movies.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you have a decent science fiction movie, it doesn't have to be terribly futuristic. You just have some kind of piece of fictional science, and stuff like the movie Her.
Right.
And then people say, well, that's not science fiction. Well, yeah, it is. like that's a romantic comedy. No, that's a science fiction movie. Sure, it's romantic, there's funny things in it, I get it, but it's a science fiction movie. And I feel like that's kind of been a thing for years, that we just get so wrapped up in what is science fiction, and it has to involve aliens in outer space.
Well, but where we're at right now, Vince, is that more things end up, when you're talking about fictional things with anything remotely supernatural, and not even supernatural, but just not, you can go out and get it right now. Mm-hmm. I think more things are science fiction now than not, because the world we live in feels like science fiction. And that's what gets really interesting, is that we live in a world that would have felt like a science fiction novel 40 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, people are printing organs now, so...
Yeah.
The music organ, but like the beat.
There are but then with 3D printing, they're probably printing those kind of organs too. With
it's a big printer.
If you think, but you print a piece and then you print another piece, and that's how 3D printing works, I think. But
I think you're right.
But yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that like what we had before with science fiction was here are all these amazing endless possibilities with things that we're building, and we want to go to space, and we're trying to do all these things, and now so many things have been realized and achieved that I think in a real cultural sense, I think there's some stagnation where people are just sort of like people sort of take for granted the amazing things that we've achieved and aren't getting excited about trying to achieve anything else. And so you have plenty of people in fields that are excited about that, and you have people writing science fiction that are trying to realize amazing, interesting possibilities. And I don't just mean the future, I just mean, like, what might happen that hasn't happened yet. And so I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see where it all goes, because where we're at right now, I think there's a lot of just kind of retread of ideas and stuff. But then, also, a lot of the cool new stuff that is coming out is science fiction, and people just don't think of it as such. Hunger Games is a really good science fiction series. And it's funny, because people don't talk about it like that, but that's what it is. So, I don't know. So I guess what I'm saying, we have really good science fiction going on right now. I feel like maybe what I'm getting to is everyone's a science fiction fan now, but they don't know it. They don't realize it. I think that's where we're at right now. Because the world we live in is sort of like that. Well, that's a good place to stop, I think, for today. I feel like I need to think more about that question. That is a fascinating question. Anyway, well, everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. And we will see you next week with another episode of the Multi-Topic Extravaganza. If you want to ask us some questions, send us a PM, or the link to the other video is in the description. Put your questions there. And in the meantime, I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your extravagant multi-topic store.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Those are stores where you could buy anything.
That's right. Extravagantly.
It's extra, so it's really expensive, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.